They say truckers see things on the road no one else ever will. But Darren never believed the stories until the night the highway vanished beneath his wheels. The signs were clear, a warning carved into rusted metal, headlights that never caught up, and a voice on the radio that wasn't from this world. He thought he took a shortcut through the desert, but something was waiting on that road. Something old, something hungry. If you're brave enough to ride along, subscribe to our channel, because the road only gets darker from here. Like this video if you've ever felt eyes watching you in the dark. And share it before this story finds someone else to follow. Darren Briggs had been driving trucks for over 12 years. He knew every major interstate and back road from Nevada to Texas. That night, he was hauling a trailer full of construction equipment across state lines, routine stuff. But the dispatch delay cost him daylight. By the time he hit the Arizona border, night had already swallowed the horizon whole. He stopped at a rundown diner off Route 86 to fuel up both his truck and his stomach. Inside, the waitress was pale and slow, like she hadn't slept in days. She never made eye contact, just slid him a coffee and stared past his shoulder. "Anything good on the road tonight?" Darren asked, trying to make small talk. She blinked. "Don't take Old Dry Creek Road," she said flatly. He frowned. "Didn't ask about that one." "You will," she muttered. "It's not on your map, but it'll show up when you're looking for a shortcut." When he asked what she meant, she simply walked into the kitchen and didn't return. Weird, but not the weirdest thing he'd seen on the road. Darren got back in his truck, punched in his GPS, and saw a reroute suggestion flash on screen. Fastest route, Old Dry Creek Road. Saved 2 hours. He stared at it, unsettled. He didn't remember ever downloading that road into his nav. Still, he was behind schedule, and the idea of saving time tugged at his better judgment. "Let's see what you've got," he muttered and turned off the main highway. The road started off paved, if a bit cracked. Then the streetlights disappeared. Then the lane markings. The night pressed in tighter with every mile. There was no traffic, no signs, just a thin stretch of asphalt and the distant glow of his headlights reflecting on sand and rocks. 10 miles in, the GPS froze. So did the clock. The desert was eerily silent. No insects, no wind. Even the engine felt muted, as if something heavy pressed against the air itself. The temperature dropped sharply, so fast his windshield began to fog from inside. Darren reached to adjust the defrost and noticed something strange. The fuel gauge. It had just reset to full. He knew that wasn't possible. He'd burned at least a quarter tank already. Then came the static. His CB radio hissed softly, even though he hadn't touched it. He reached out to turn it off, but it clicked before he touched the dial. "Breaker, breaker," a voice crackled. "You out there, Briggs?" He froze. No one had called him by name. Not on the radio. Not tonight. "Who is this?" he asked. His voice came out low and dry. Static again. Then, "You made a wrong turn, driver." Goosebumps prickled up his arms. I said, "Who is this?" he demanded. But the voice was gone. The radio returned to dead air. His heart was pounding now, and he gripped the wheel tighter. He decided to turn around. Enough weirdness. The road was supposed to save time, but it was eating something else. His nerves, his sense of direction, and maybe something more. He made a slow 3-point turn on the narrow road, headlights casting long shadows against the rocks and shrubs. As he shifted into drive, his headlights flickered. Once, twice. Then the beam stretched further than it should have, illuminating something standing in the road. It wasn't a person. Too tall, too thin. Its limbs were impossibly long, draped in something like tattered cloth or skin. No face, just a smooth, gray surface where features should be. It didn't move, didn't react. It just stood there, as if it had been waiting. Then, one step forward. Darren didn't wait for the second. He slammed the accelerator, the truck roaring forward. But the thing didn't flinch. It disappeared into thin air just as he should have hit it. No impact. No sound. Nothing. He drove for what felt like an hour without seeing a single turnoff or crossroad. The moon never moved. The stars stayed frozen. His clock still read 2:46 a.m. And then the road looped. He recognized a rusted-out car on the side of the road. Same graffiti on the door, same smashed headlights. He'd already passed it. Twice. No, he whispered. No, no, no. The road wasn't taking him forward. It was keeping him. Darren's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his eyes wide and unblinking. The road ahead was identical to what he had already seen, over and over again. That same rusted-out sedan, broken window glittering faintly in the moonlight, sat on the shoulder like a fossilized warning. The curve in the road. The crooked mile marker with no numbers. A Joshua tree snapped at the trunk. A perfect loop. Maybe I'm tired, he muttered, though his heart refused to believe the lie. Overworked. He switched off the GPS. The map still hadn't moved, just a frozen blue surrounded by blankness. The time? 2:46 a.m. Still, he rubbed his face and turned up the radio. More static, but this time there was breathing. Not faint, not accidental. Close, deep, like someone was sitting in the seat beside him. His skin crawled. He flicked the overhead light on. Empty passenger seat. No one in the mirror. The cab was still locked, but the breathing remained, just under the hum of the engine. He turned off the radio, but it didn't stop. That's when it hit him. The sound wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from the sleeper cab behind him. Darren's breath hitched. He turned in his seat and stared at the closed curtain that separated the front from the back of the truck. It was swaying slightly, though there was no breeze. A voice whispered from behind it, low and scratchy. "You're late, Darren." He jerked the door open and jumped out, stumbling into the dark road. Cold air slapped his face as he backed away from the truck, watching it, half expecting the curtain to peel back and reveal something staring at him. But nothing moved. He circled the truck, flashlight in hand. No footprints, no broken locks. Everything seemed intact, except in the dirt behind the truck, there were drag marks. Long, deep trenches carved through the sand, as if something heavy or someone unwilling had been pulled away from the back of the trailer. They led off the road and vanished into the desert brush. His breath fogged in the air. This can't be happening. The flashlight flickered. Then a high-pitched sound pierced the silence, like a radio tuning between frequencies. But it wasn't coming from his truck. It was coming from the desert. Somewhere out there, among the sagebrush and dry rocks, something was calling him. He climbed back into the cab, started the engine, and floored it. The tires screeched as he tore down the road, headlights slicing through the dark. He didn't care where it led. He just needed to get away. After 20 minutes, something changed. A light, not his own, a flickering, golden glow up ahead. As he got closer, Darren saw a gas station. An old one. Lights flickering, pumps rusted. It looked abandoned, but it wasn't. A figure stood inside. Finally, a person, a way out. He pulled in, climbed out, and approached the door. The bell jingled as he stepped in. The air inside was musty, reeking of dust and old gasoline. Behind the counter stood an old man, wrinkled, with cloudy eyes and a voice like crushed leaves. "Long way from home, son. You have no idea," Darren said, exhaling hard. "My GPS went dead. I got turned around on Old Dry Creek Road and..." The man's face changed. "Old Dry Creek?" Darren nodded. "Yeah, this place, this loop. Have you seen anything weird out here?" The man leaned forward. "You saw the loop?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then you ain't on any map no more. That road don't lead out. It leads in." "Into what?" "Depends who you ask." The old man reached under the counter and pulled out something wrapped in canvas. "You got two choices. Keep driving till it takes you, or drop this in the road behind you." He unwrapped the bundle, a mirror, old and cracked around the edges. "A mirror." The man didn't blink. "This thing shows what follows." place it behind your trailer. If you see it in the glass, you don't stop. You don't speak. And you sure as hell don't turn around." Darren stared. "What's it?" But the old man was already walking into the back room. "Wait, I don't understand." Silence. Darren stood there, holding the mirror. It felt cold, unnaturally cold. The kind that went straight to your bones. Something scraped outside. He looked through the window. His truck, the passenger door was open. He was sure he'd locked it. The light inside the cab flickered once, then again. Someone was in there. Darren ran outside, mirror in hand, heart pounding. He climbed into the cab and slammed the door shut, locking it again. Breathing hard, he looked around. Empty. But the rearview mirror had fogged up from the inside. A smear ran across it, like a fingertip had traced letters. He leaned closer, turned back. Suddenly, his CB radio crackled back to life. A voice, faint and distant. "Exit's coming. One shot. Don't miss it." "What exit?" Darren shouted. No answer. Just the sound of that breathing again. He drove. The desert road stretched ahead. Same loops. Same turns. But something felt different now. The mirror lay beside him on the passenger seat, reflecting nothing but shadows. Up ahead, a faint blinking light, an exit sign. He gunned the engine. Then the truck jerked, as if something had grabbed the trailer. He looked in the side mirror. Nothing. But the mirror in the seat beside him showed something. A black shape, long arms dragging along the road, clinging to the back of the truck. No face, just a mouth full of jagged teeth, wide and grinning. He swerved, trying to shake it. The road trembled beneath him. The exit sign was just ahead. Darren reached for the mirror. The thing in the reflection reached back. Darren gripped the wheel like it was the only real thing left in the world. His hands were slick with sweat, knuckles pale under the dashboard's faint green glow. The CB radio crackled softly, then went dead. He was surrounded by silence. No cars, no wind, not even the hum of bugs. Just the sound of tires thudding over endless cracks in the road and the pounding of his own heart. The passenger side mirror lay in his lap now. That damn mirror. The one the old man had shoved at him with trembling hands and a whisper. "Only in reflections, boy. That's where it hides." Darren hadn't believed it then. He wasn't sure he did now. But when he glanced into the mirror's cracked surface, his blood turned to ice. The creature was still there, clinging to the back of his rig like a twisted insect. Only now, it was closer, much closer. Its hands, if they could be called that, were spindly things like crow talons, latched into the trailer's steel walls. The grin on its face had widened, its jaw split to the ears, cheeks torn into a sick smile that shimmered with black spit. No eyes, just darkness where its soul should have been. And it was moving, crawling, limb by limb, toward the cab. Darren's mind screamed stop, but his body had other plans. He floored the gas pedal. The engine roared like a wounded beast, throwing him back in his seat as the truck leapt forward. The landscape rushed past. Dunes, boulders, desert scrub, but it all blurred into a single, unending smear. He looked at the dashboard clock. 2:46 a.m. Still, the same as before, like time was broken, or looping. Suddenly the rig jerked sideways, swaying like it had been caught by a wind, but there was no wind. Darren fought the wheel, barely keeping control. Something was pulling it. Something was on the roof. No, not something. It. Then the radio crackled again. This time, a voice he recognized. His own. "You brought this on yourself, just like they all do." Darren blinked. What the hell? The voice continued, calm, hollow. "Turn around. Let it in. You're already part of it." He snatched the mirror from his lap and angled it upward through the windshield. In the reflection, he saw a long, pale limb slither across the roof. Black veins pulsed beneath translucent skin. His breath caught. He could feel it up there, pressing down. Panic overtook him. He slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded to a halt, tires shrieking across the gravel shoulder. The engine sputtered, then died. Silence. And then tapping. Light. Rhythmic. From the roof above him. Tap, tap, tap. His skin crawled. He reached for the door handle, but it locked on its own. He tried the other. Locked. Tap, tap, tap. Something slid down the windshield like a slug, leaving a wet, black trail. Darren reached into the glove box and pulled out his flashlight. He flicked it on and aimed it at the roof from inside, but saw nothing. He tried to scream. Nothing came out. He looked down. The mirror was glowing faintly now. In its reflection, his face looked wrong. Stretched. Pale. His eyes black. He dropped it. It hit the floor and cracked again. And then came the sound. A low rumbling, like thunder from beneath the earth. The truck began to move not forward, but backward. Slowly, steadily, as if the road was dragging it. No, 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 no. He threw the truck into drive. Pressed the gas. Nothing. It wouldn't respond. The CB screamed, "Don't fight it, Darren. You're almost home." The truck began rolling on its own, lights flickering. And then, up ahead, like a beacon in the void. Exit 0. A glowing sign, flickering in pale blue. A straight ramp that cut through the shadows. Hope. Or bait. Darren didn't care. He grabbed the mirror, pointed it back behind the rig. The creature was gone. Then he felt it. Breathing. Inside the cab. The temperature dropped. Frost crept up the inside of the windshield. He didn't turn around. He just floored the gas again. This time, the engine roared back to life. The truck surged forward onto the ramp. He held his breath. Everything shook. The mirrors cracked. The dashboard blinked off. Static whined through the CB. And then, impact. Except, there wasn't any. Only darkness. When Darren came to, the rig was parked. Still, engine idling softly. But the world outside wasn't the same. Gone was the desert. Now there were trees, dead, blackened things with twisted limbs. The ground was coated in thick ash, like the aftermath of a forest fire that had burned and never stopped. There was no sky, just a low, oppressive ceiling of blue fog pressing down from above. The road ran straight ahead like a tongue into a monster's throat. He looked at the mirror again and gasped. It wasn't just cracked now. It showed his reflection, but twisted. His mouth was too wide. His cheeks stretched unnaturally. And worst of all, his eyes were hollow. A smile crept onto the reflection's face. Darren wasn't smiling. He screamed in through the mirror. But the reflection was burned into his mind now. He looked into the side mirror. The road behind him was gone. Only fog. Then came headlights. A second rig, pulling in behind his. The sound of brakes. The creak of a door opening. Another man stepped out. Younger. Confused. Darren's throat tightened. This man looked exactly like he had. Just hours or lifetimes before. The man approached, squinting. "Hey, you okay in there? GPS led me down this weird shortcut and now my phone's dead. You know the way to Dry Creek Road?" Darren tried to reply, but his mouth wouldn't move. His body was frozen, stiff. He looked down at his hands. They were gray, dusty, unmoving. His reflection had been right. He was gone. He was part of the road now. The CB crackled one final time. "Breaker, breaker. You made a wrong turn, driver." The other man's face twisted in confusion. He stepped back. The loop had begun again. And Darren? He watched it unfold from inside the mirror. The fog swallowed everything. Time no longer moved. The sky, if it could still be called that, hung in frozen twilight, a dull indigo that shimmered with ghostly veins, pulsing slowly like a dying heart. Darren remained trapped in the driver's seat, unmoving, barely breathing. But something inside him knew he wasn't dead. He was watching, not just with his eyes, through mirrors, through headlights, through the faint flickers of static on the CB that now whispered the names of roads that never existed. Darren was now part of this haunted loop, cursed to witness every new soul who dared set rubber to this forsaken path. And the loop continued. The younger driver, the man who had just arrived, stood beside his truck, scanning the fog with growing unease. His flashlight barely cut through the mist, and when it did, the beams caught fleeting shapes, twisted outlines, crawling things, human-shaped, but not human. One of them stepped into the light, just at the edge of the man's vision. He froze. A figure, tall and skeletal, stood perfectly still in the middle of the road. It had no face, only a jagged crack where a mouth should be. Then it smiled. And then, Darren saw himself, reflected in the side view mirror of the new truck. His reflection, distorted, half shadow, half man, was smiling too. "It's your turn now," the voice inside the mirror whispered, though Darren never moved his lips. The younger driver scrambled back into his cab. Doors slammed, engine revved, tires screamed, but there was no escape. The road turned back on itself like a snake devouring its tail. Every turn became familiar. Every exit vanished. His GPS blinked red. No signal, no network. The same rusted car on the shoulder. The same billboard half buried in dust. The same cracked sign that read, "Dry Creek RD, next right." And from the shadows, they came. Those twisted creatures, invisible in daylight, now danced in the peripheral vision. They grinned, whispering through fogged glass. They reached for door handles, crawled across trailers, fed on the growing fear of the driver who had no clue he had already crossed into something ancient, something cursed. Darren watched it all. He didn't blink. He couldn't. But deep inside, something stirred, a flicker of thought, or maybe regret. He hadn't always been like this. Once, he'd been human. He remembered the loneliness of long hauls, the sting of divorce papers signed at rest stops, the static-filled voices on late-night radios keeping him sane. He remembered his last real delivery, a cargo no one explained, a sealed crate that thumped softly as if something inside it breathed, a crate he'd dropped off outside Dry Creek, a delivery that had started this all. He'd been paid in cash, or not to ask, but he'd seen the thing in the mirror that night, and now he was its echo. The CB on the younger driver's truck crackled. "Breaker, breaker, follow the signs. Let the road take you." And the loop claimed another. Darren's rig sat still, its headlights dimming like dying stars. But inside, behind the dusty windshield, behind the cracked glass of the rearview mirror, Darren's eyes stared out. Waiting, watching, calling for the next soul brave or foolish enough to take a shortcut down Dry Creek Road. Because on this road, you never arrive. You only drive. Forever.